Hello, I'm Rena, and if you're new here, I'm currently on the journey of learning art while documenting it here on YouTube. Welcome! Since my last videos regarding faces and whatnot, I have decided to take on color theory because I want to start coloring the stuff that I draw. Luckily, I am not a total beginner at this color stuff. I have some experience that I've gathered over the years, which simply means that I'm not going into this totally blind, but regardless, I shall show you the collective 10 or so paintings that I made. It's so much stuff that I don't even know how I'm going to fit it all in one video. I will try to explain my thought process approaching these color studies, and maybe if you are a total beginner, I might say a useful thing or two. We all know that colors are hard, and metaphorically speaking, it usually goes something like this for me. I draw something, I think to myself, it would be so cool to color this, and then I try, and I'm faced with what feels like this huge mountain ahead of me. It's like I'm at the base camp of Mount Everest. Or maybe not, and I just watched too many mountain climbing videos while drawing. But in the end, I just end up deleting any layer with an ounce of color on it. So regarding my color studies, it have been years since I attempted a color study, and I do think that the last time I tried to do something like this was in high school. And well, I was forced to do so because it was for school. For my first attempt in years, I decided to pick geometrical shapes. And honestly, I don't exactly know why. I suppose I thought that it would be simple since it's clear shapes with clear surfaces and edges. My goal is to somewhat recreate the original without color picking. I don't exactly intend to copy it and make it perfect. My main goal with all of these studies is to mostly focus on how value presents itself in different colors within the hue wheel. This is why you might see some flashes of gray in the time-lapse, and I will explain this whole value thing in a second, but in the end, compared to my original reference, my sphere is not red enough. I did kind of give up on it, and I tried coming back to it in the end, but it just didn't feel like it was worth my time. There are basic concepts to color theory like hue, saturation, and brightness, and these are quite straightforward, and I do think they are important to somewhat understand before you think about value. Hues are the colors you see around the color wheel, the pure pigments without any addition of black or white. Saturation is how strong the color that we chose is. For example, all the hues around the color wheel are maxed out on saturation. And brightness is simply how bright or dark your color is, how much black or white is added to it. Now, that was a very quick and simplified explanation of these concepts. This is, however, not a tutorial video, so if you want to learn about those in depth, there are plenty of videos on YouTube that will explain it to you. But if you want to talk value, you're at the right place. Value is usually where people really lose their marbles and get really confused, so I ask you for some patience. Unfortunately, whether or not you hate values, if you want to do art, you can't really escape it unless you wish to simply do line art for the rest of your days. And that could totally work if that's what you're into. But the question still remains, what is value? Value refers in a simple way to how bright or dark a color is. It will define how intense or dull your shadows and highlights are. And if you know nothing about color theory, you will innocently look at me and ask me, "But Rena, isn't that what you just said about brightness?" And I sigh and look at you. From my throne, of course. My innocent child. There's so much for you to learn. Let me explain it to you. When you first come across those quick color theory tutorials on Pinterest or anywhere online, you typically see value represented in a grayscale. And while this is right, it can lead to thinking that value is something that only exists in this manner. But value is everywhere. And understanding this concept is what's really going to take us both over that mountain. Values can be referred to as high, light, or low, dark. And this is a very easy concept to see in grayscale because it does not get brighter than white or darker than black. But I think we've both gathered that it just isn't that simple. In between white and black, we don't just find gray, we find every other color in existence. And to prove to you that hue, saturation, and brightness don't exactly influence value at all, let's take a look. Here I am picking a low saturation, mid brightness, purplish blue, and next to it, the pure hue itself. You can start drawing your conclusions on which one you think will be a darker value, but to check this, we can add a top layer, fill it with white, and set the layer mode to color. And Whoa, it's not even a small difference. The second one is clearly a lot darker. This means that even though we went higher in brightness and saturation, our value didn't actually get lighter. It got darker. This is probably still an abstract concept, so let's dive a little deeper into why. Here I am showing you the Munsell color system. The colors are stacked according to their value, and at the very top we see white, and at the very bottom we see black. And what did I tell you? In between black and white, we don't just find gray, we have every other color. The hue at the highest point is yellow, and the one at the lowest point is purple-blue. We can check the values of these colors by doing the same thing that we previously did. These colors are both the exact same saturation, and even so, the difference is even more drastic than before. This applies to all the hues that we see on the color wheel. They all have a different base value. Some of them are closer, some of them are more drastic. Seeing value in color is something that you practice your eye to do over time with lots of practice. But I do think that the Munsell color system is a great tool to help you in the beginning.
Mommy, a girl behind you.
This is what I just showed you earlier, but it is a little more intense. Do not be scared, it doesn't bite. This is still the Munsell color system, and in this system, colors are organized by three main properties: hue, chroma, and value. To ease everyone's brain and to not overload it even more, let's all think of chroma as saturation, even though it is not the same thing. But look at this with eyes of seeing. The most saturated yellow possible is right at the top of the value scale. While at the same level, we only have very light and unsaturated blues. You only find a pure hue blue around halfway through the whole thing. This image might still be a bit hard to see since it's cut in half, so I found this website that follows the exact same system. Yet again, look at yellow, very top. And the further down you go, it kind of becomes like really concerning piss colors. Meanwhile, take a look at purple. It's a huge difference. I will link the website in the description, and I think you should check it out and go through the colors and seeing where the most pure and intense version of the hue is found, but only after you're done here, of course. I don't know if you still happen to remember my cues or if that was too long ago now, but my cubes were such a snooze fest that I actually thought about not finishing it. This ended up taking me like an hour, which is far longer than anything else I did took, but I still did it with great pain. So now that we know a little bit more about value, we can compare it to the original reference. The values are not really fully there, but it's also not that bad. It's mediocre, you could say. Especially my ball. My ball is bad. Moving along from the snooze fest, I started doing actually interesting things. I chose an avocado because it's a simple shape with clear surfaces as well. And the colors are also very simple. It's all very straightforward. I kept the vibes quite painterly. I think that trying to blend the colors would make it quite boring and flavorless, as well as take up too much time. And yet again, I am constantly checking the grayscale to evaluate the values. You can see that I didn't make the shadow of the avocado pit dark enough, and I thought about fixing it after I noticed, but I decided to keep it like that. In the future, if I paint another avocado, I will know better, and then I can compare it and think about past me as really dumb and naive. Next to the avocado, I painted some cherries, S-tier fruit. I painted the first cherry and I really hated it. I think that I got a little carried away with it. I was doing way too much. So I got rid of it while painting the second because I realized that it was just too ugly. It was just too ugly. In the end, I like how they turned out. I think that the values aren't all that bad. They're a little cute. I do wish that I could give advice on how to color pick, but I don't really know how to explain it. I think I learned from actually just color picking when I started digitally drawing, and now I just kind of know. So maybe if you really struggle to get the right color and it's leaving you frustrated, which in the long run will just make you not want to paint, color pick a little. Don't just mindlessly do it, of course. Really think about where the color is and its brightness and saturation. Give yourself like 2 color picks per painting for when you're really annoyed that it just doesn't look right. This stupid freaking blueberry, which at the very least it's giving blueberry, I guess. I don't know if I jumped a little far ahead by thinking, blueberry small and round means easy. No, it does not. It has so much color and hue shifts, so many differences in brightness and all of that. It's just too much. However, if you look at it from a distance, it looks really good. This watermelon slice is probably still one of the favorite ones that I did. I just think it looks cute and quite yummy. But do you spot where the value is wrong though? Yes, on the side. The side edge is not dark enough. I'm noticing it now that I'm looking at it later, which could mean two things. Did I get better at seeing value in color and like, yeah, obviously that color isn't dark enough? Or was that painfully obvious before I even pointed it out to you? Guess I won't know. Speeding things up a little bit, I did a tomato. I think I started off with potential and then it kind of went downhill. I tried to get a little silly and use this blue hue for the shadow because look, it's the same value and it doesn't really look out of place. But maybe in the end, my tomato just looks like it's molding a little bit. I'm not sure. I drew an egg and this really brought me back to high school where we had this assignment to paint a sequence and everyone thought about really elaborate stuff that was quite hard to execute. But because I am a fan of work smarter, not harder, I chose to do a breakfast. You are out here trying to draw a wolf in motion, meanwhile I am drawing eggs and bacon. We are not the same. And my teacher actually really liked my idea and that was very big for me at the time because he usually had beef with the stuff that I did. However, the main issue here is values. There's not enough shadows anywhere. It's so dull and it is a very common mistake to make as a beginner. It can be quite scary to really go in on the shadows and make it contrast enough with the highlights. Making the highlights pure whites, but then being scared to add a little bit of black to contrast with that is a common mistake that everyone goes through at one point. But I do think that my little glass bowl of cherry tomatoes is kind of cute. Anyway, doesn't my new egg have so much more personality and flavor? Doesn't it look way tastier? I only realized halfway through that the reference that I was using was also a drawing. Hello? It kind of humbled me a bit, so I ended up stealing their idea and using a pencil brush to do the little details. After this, I tried some desserts, and I do not want to talk about the flan, but for the one on the right, when I first saw the image, I thought, okay, cool, I think I want to try this, but it will probably take me so long, so I'll give myself like an hour. I got flashbacks to the cubes. And obviously this that you're seeing here isn't perfect, but it only took me like 18 minutes. 15 if you don't count the sketch. If I had kept working on it for that whole hour, it would just be too realistic. It would just be too good. And you would be foaming at the mouth for it. But you can really tell that I didn't care about the wrapper at all. And lastly, I drew another egg on toast. And there's no time-lapse for this one because I accidentally deleted it. I couldn't get the bread texture all that well, but I tried getting a little funky with the color of the egg. Like, look at me using a little purple there. Wait, you didn't actually think that this was purple. It's fucking pink, bitch. Obviously, color relativity is a thing, and it's quite complex, and I am unfortunately not the person to teach you about this because I don't even know if my egg looks good. I think that the extra pop of color doesn't exactly look off, but I don't know if it's right. I was just trying out something different. My thought process was just, well, I'm using yellow, orange hues, and there's a little bit of red as well. So I want to contrast these warm colors with something more interesting. I need to go cooler. So I moved away from the red to the more purplish side, cooler colors, and then I picked a value that created enough of this contrast in the egg. I don't know if that's how you do it. I don't know if there are clear rules on how to do this that I haven't learned yet. I will keep practicing and improving my eyes. My eyes. And that's it for this video. If you watched it all the way to here, spare a like. Do not be shy. Subscribe if you want to see more, and have a nice day. I will be back at some point. See ya!